The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Joanne Mercier. Hey, Joanne.
Hey, Dom.
And Father Cory Sticha. Hey, Father Cory.
How's it going?
Folks, I want to tell you about another show on the StarQuest Network you're sure to enjoy called The Secrets of Middle-earth. And you can find that wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/Middle-earth. So our main topic today, Father Cory, is something that I saw that you posted on our Discord. We're talking about the must-have bare minimum apps and features you'd accept on your smartphone. And I want to start with why you asked this question, why you put this out there, and what you're working on here.
So a project I'd like to do is figure out how tightly you can dumb down a smartphone, specifically mine. One concern I have with myself, and I know a lot of people do, is we spend too much time staring at these stupid chunks of plastic and glass, and we don't. We're distracted by them. You know, there's so many distractions, games and messaging apps, and this thing and that store and this place and that. You know, all this stuff that we've got, and I want to strip my phone down to what do I absolutely need for my day-to-day life. So there's gonna be some things that are great features of smartphones. I want to get off of it, or at least I want to lock down so that it's not so easily accessible, and just make my phone. And what kind of prompted this was looking at some of the dumb smartphones that are out there. That, like, the Wise phone is a big one that was been promoted, and it's got some great features, but it's missing things I need. You know, there's stuff that I need in my day-to-day life. That it's essential for my job, it's essential for my life. And so this is to try to take my Pixel phone and turn it into kind of the equivalent.
Okay. And so it's an interesting, as soon as you posted this, I thought, wow, this is an interesting idea. And we asked some of our listeners who are on the Discord, what they came up with, and I came up with a list. And I'll share some of what our Discord listeners offered after we talk about ours. But, I was trying to think of what would be my criteria for this, because when I look at my phone, I have something like 150 apps on it or something. The vast majority of which I never use. I never use. But they're there because I may use them, or I'll occasionally. That's an interesting feature, or whatever. You accumulate them. The phones are so large and whatever. So it was hard to narrow it down. In fact, I look at all of our lists, and they can be somewhat extensive, and everyone's is going to be different. I mean, I think we all have some the same, but when you get into it, they start to differ, and then I start looking at your guys' lists, and I'm thinking, oh, yeah, I really need to have that too. Oh, and I kind of need that too. And it starts growing again. But so the question is what is your criteria? How do you, just to begin with, before we start talking about the apps and features themselves, what criteria? So you give your criteria, Father Cory, like you're trying to reduce distractions. Joanne, what is your criteria for what you have to keep?
My criteria is things that make my life easier and I need for work. So I will need different things at being both a musician and someone who works in the church than other people will need. But, I'm looking at my general right now, and I have 246 apps on my phone. And I know that is because when I see an app or I hear an app from somebody else that they say, this is a good app, I say, oh, let me get that and see if I'm going to need it. 246 apps later, I don't need all those either. So this is very intriguing because I would like to pare things down, but I don't know how bare bones I can get because there are those specifically Catholic things that I need, and then music, like metronomes that no one else would need. But so it's going to, I think your mileage is going to vary depending. And I'm, the Catholic things really went out.
I just remembered one of them adding to my list real quick.
And that should be on my list as well.
Yeah. Mine too. Yeah.
That's why I saw it. But see, that's just it. I think we do get very tied up, though, in when we hear that an app is good, we want to get it before we forget it.
Yes.
So, because it's easy to forget it or put it in a list and then forget that list. So.
Yeah. So, Joanne, how many apps did you say you had?
246.
So, you heard what my estimate off the top of my head was, 140 or something? Yeah, I just looked. I have 363 apps on my phone. Me. I'm like, what? What are all those apps?
Yeah, exactly. I just looked. I'm at 291, so I'm not far behind. I'm kind of in the middle.
So, see, you forget how many apps there really are.
You don't realize, yeah.
And that was part of the process as I was going through this and looking at my apps, and it's like, oh, I forgot I had downloaded that one. I forgot about that one. Why do I have this one? What is this app?
And the funny thing is as I was, I was upgrading to my iPhone 15, last month. In the process of preparing, I was deleting apps, so I had even more apps apparently on there. I've been paring it down. So, yeah.
And then there are the ones that are broken. And you don't realize it till you go and use it. It's like, oh, gee, they discontinued this app.
Yes. Yep. So, yeah, it doesn't work past iOS 15 or whatever. So we should mention, remind folks what devices we're using, because that'll make a difference in the apps and features. So I've got an iPhone 15 with iOS, whatever the latest 17 on it. And Joanne, what are you working on?
I have not upgraded yet. I'm an iPhone 13 Pro with 17.1.1, I think, at this point.
And Father Cory, you said your Google Pixel?
I've got the Pixel 7 Pro, and it's running Android 14, which is the latest version.
Okay. So, as folks hear us talking about things, that they'll keep that in mind, the differences that we're working with here. So, Father, since it was your idea, what have you pared your must-haves, apps and features down to?
Well, I've got, of course, there's ones that I think are going to be common for all of us. We know this, things like phone, although I wouldn't mind accidentally leaving the phone call functionary off. I don't like talking on the phone. I never have. But, messages, camera, things like that, these are things that we're all going to use for one sort or another. The big one that really kind of set me on this track was a calendar. The online calendar, whether you use Google Calendar, or in my case, I use Proton Mail and Calendar. And both those apps would not be available on a dumb smartphone, but they are something I use every day and need every day. My calendar is in Proton, and so I need that ability to look at my phone and see my calendar.
That is the downside of these, so what we should mention is you already said it, just to reiterate, there are these vendors selling these Android phones that are intentionally stripped down for this purpose, because for people who don't want all of the social media and games and all that other stuff that sucks us into the phones, but they know they need a phone. But there's often so stripped down and locked down that you have to use whatever services they've let sneak through their walled garden. And so Proton is a service, an email calendar, and what's the third thing? Email.
They got VPN. They got like a Google Docs type equivalent, or not Docs, but Google Drives type equivalent, things like that.
But they're very secure. We've talked about them recently in one of our episodes. They're very secure. They're located in Switzerland, and therefore
Switzerland.
Yeah, and
they're involved with CERN.
They don't respond to subpoenas from the U.S. government, that sort of thing. So it's very secure. So that can't get through. So I agree. And for me, the phone and camera are base level. They come with the phone, and I suppose if you're under the age of 25, or 30, phone is much less of an important thing, because people do not make phone calls or take phone calls, which is kind of funny. They might not have phone on their list, but certainly camera is for me. I agree with you on that. And when you say calendar, my calendar is on there. And if I had to just have one calendar, I use Fantastical. And in my list, I say the primary, and if I had to take an alternate, the built-in Apple Calendar would be sufficient for me. I could get by with that, but I prefer Fantastical. How about you, Joanne, on those categories? Phone, camera, calendar, messages?
Yeah, well, I'm the strange one because I work at home part of my time. So I have my work phone app. So I have two phones that ring on my little iPhone here. And believe me, I know the difference between the two. Camera, I'm using the standard Apple because that works really well for me, and even in video recording. Email, I am using Airmail. I started using that a while ago because I liked the folder function was a lot better than the regular Apple Mail at the time. But I still have to use Apple Mail at work, so that drives me a little crazy. And calendar, I have to use a Google Calendar because of work, as well as my regular Apple Calendar. I tried Fantastical, got me a little crazy, so I said forget that.
Well, you can have the Google Calendar in the Apple Calendar,
right?
But is it just better to keep them separate for you?
Oh, when you see the categories I have to deal with,
Oh, okay.
That's, believe me, I can get so messed up between my own personal calendar and the church calendar that has 3 churches attached to it.
Right.
An internal calendar, the pastor's calendar. No, I don't want all that on my Apple Calendar. So, see, everybody has specific needs.
Yep,
exactly.
Joanne mentioned email, Father. What is your must-have for email? And I assume email is a must-have.
Oh yeah, and that's again going to Proton. Now I have Gmail accounts, of course. We different sites and different organizations use Gmail. But for my personal email, my frcory.org email address, I use Proton, and that's why I've signed up with that. So I have to have the Proton email app because for those who don't know, it's encrypted between device and server. It's actually encrypted on the server. The email is. So that's part of the reason why they can't give out the information to authorities, because they can't see it.
Right.
And so, I need that Proton email so I can get my frcory.org email, which is my primary email address. That's where most of my email comes through that I need to deal with as part of my job.
Is that a subscription?
It is. I can't remember how much it is. It's not terribly expensive.
Very competitive with Google, frankly. If you have a Google account, like you can have a free Google email, I suppose. But I found that very quickly I needed to pay Google to have enough space for, everything. And it's very competitive with what Google charges for a personal email.
Yeah, so you can do a free account, free email account, just gives you one free address, but it won't let you do a domain. But it's like $4 a month for their Mail Plus, which is what I have.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
No, it's cheap.
Yeah, and email is also on my list of must-haves on my phone, and I just use the Apple Mail app. I have used many mail apps. I go back to the days on my Mac of Claris Emailer, which was a fantastic. Well, actually, it was originally Fog City Mailer, so that takes me way back. And I've used all kinds of mail apps. I've used Airmail. I've used what was the other one? There's another one that's popular. But I keep coming back to Mail app because Apple's got some really good features for like connecting with things that those apps can't do. And I ran into an issue with Airmail that kind of put me off on them. They may have fixed it, but I had like syncing issues where things were kind of getting wonky between different devices, my phone and my Mac. And I was like, I don't want to deal with this. And it wasn't working. And then they came up with a subscription model. I'm like, I don't really want to do like Mail is good enough for me that I don't need to pay a subscription for theirs. Like I'll pay a subscription for Fantastical because it is Fantastical, but I'm not going to pay one for Airmail because it just wasn't enough for me.
It's gotten better.
Okay,
it is a little slower than the Apple Mail, and I keep teetering when it comes to subscription time, whether or not I want to. So if when February rolls around again, that may be something that goes because everything's been going up.
Yeah.
So.
I have to admit, I wish Thunderbird, good old Mozilla Thunderbird. I wish that was available on phones because that's what I use for my desktop email, and it's still great. And they've actually done a lot of updates on it to make it look better. Because you remember it looked because it looked right out of the 90s. Yeah. No, they've been doing a lot recently to really update it. It was going to be a dead project, 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
Like Mozilla was going to drop it altogether. And people stepped up, and now it's really good. I wish they had that for phone. Mozilla, if you're listening,
yes,
we need Thunderbird for phone.
That's right. So we should probably our lists are much longer than this, so we should probably go through them pretty more rapidly than we have. So let's talk about, Father Cory, the other things that you need to have on your phone that you've decided.
Yeah, I'm going to group this kind of as outdoor stuff, or outside the house stuff, but weather and travel apps. And so, of course, for a weather app, of course, both iOS and Android come with built-in weather stuff, but usually there's aftermarket apps that are better. And I like AccuWeathers. I use AccuWeathers. It's because it works really well. Of course, it's Weather Channel now, but it used to be separate. But it's Weather Channel now. But it's really good weather app. It's got everything I need. And then travel apps, of course, Google Maps. Apple would like to say otherwise, but Google Maps is still the standard. Road condition apps, here in Montana, especially, this is the time of year you need to find out what your road conditions are like, because there might be times you're going to be seeing that white stuff on it. Fuel apps, I've talked about it before, but that's a way to save money on fuel, because you can use the apps and save some money. And then Great Falls has, uses one of the city parking apps. They've got meters downtown, and they use those city parking apps. So those are things that are kind of essential, because I go up to Great Falls generally about once a week, and I might have to use the meters.
There is in the Boston area, there's 5 different apps, because every city's Cambridge, Somerville, Boston, they all have their own parking apps. And I'm like, so you got to have them all, in order to do it.
Yep.
I didn't put those on my list, though, the parking apps, and because I feel like I could get by without them. If I'm going must have, if I'm being really rigid about it, I don't know that I would put them on my must have. I could get by without them, but certainly for me, weather, and for me, my preferred weather app is Carrot Weather. And Apple Weather's okay, but I'd go with Carrot Weather. And then for travel, for maps, which is on my must have, I prefer Apple Maps. Waze is owned by Google. There are some functions in Waze that pull off your calendar, so it will suggest the route at the time you need to leave. So it'll do that too. So I like that. By the way, speaking of weather apps, there is a website, forecastadvisor.com, that will tell you who has the most accurate forecast for your location, so your weather apps will use different sources. And Carrot Weather lets you choose from among the sources, which is really nice. Yeah, if it's a paid subscription thing, so then they have different levels, and I'm at the level where I can choose my source. But if you just want to find the one that works for you, you find out which one's most accurate where you are, and use that app. But so that's what I do for outdoor. I don't think I have any other sort of outdoorsy apps on my must have. What about you, Joanne?
I tried Carrot Weather. I couldn't. It was snarky as all.
Oh, you can turn that off. I've turned that off.
I know you can turn the snark off, but I've stuck with the Weather Channel. I'm trying to avoid subscription as much as I can, but they keep turning off basic things. So it's I just stick with Apple Weather right now, which used to be Dark Sky, which I still miss very much. And as far as travel, I'm in Apple Maps. It's just easier that way. But I do use Gas Buddy, which is my best comparison shopping for gas. Because right now around here, I see gas anywhere from $3.65 to $2.99. Yes. So it's you got to know where it is, and is it going to cost you more gas to get to the cheap one or not?
Yeah.
Usually does.
Yeah. I also have, I also have Shell rewards that go with other things, like Dunkin' Donuts will throw points in. Stop and Shop, which is our local supermarket, will throw points in. And those are always good for redeeming at Shell stations to get, 40, 50, 75 cents off your gas.
Yep.
And I like that a lot. As far as city parking, I stay away from them. I try when I go into the city. I'm not going to deal with that. Just like I don't have a team. I don't have a T app anymore because I don't do that
Subway,
transit.
Yeah.
I don't do subway stuff anymore. So but Apple Maps, as far as travel is concerned, Google Maps drove me a little buggy. But that's, again, me. And that could have been an earlier version of Google Maps. And then I went to Apple Maps and stayed there.
Yeah.
So, but these, again, what works for people. And plus it also works on my watch.
That's the big one for me is the Apple Maps puts it on my watch. And that's really handy without having to look at the phone. It's just right there. One thing that three of us were all making a podcast, so we all like podcasts, and I assume podcast is all on your list. What did you choose for a podcast player, Father Cory?
Well, I would have put Google Podcasts, but Google, of course, is being Google and killing off a perfectly good service. Rip Google Reader.
Too soon.
But for But for podcasts, I moved over to Pocket Cast because it's one of those where they have the website front end. You can do all your podcasts through the website or through the app. It does the syncing and everything really nicely. And so Pocket Cast is a must. I didn't put it down here, but also Audible for audiobooks.
Oh yeah. I mean, you're on the road a lot. I mean, the people should know you're in your car traveling around in your very large territory in Montana that you serve. So I can understand that sort of stuff is a must have.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, my Sundays are 25 miles each way on gravel road, literally, because it's the shortcut. I could take the interstate and go through Great Falls to get to my other parish, but that takes longer. And of course it's more fuel and everything. I can take the gravel road, but either way, it's still 25 miles each way. That's still, 40, 50 minutes worth of driving each way or round trip. If I have to go to a meeting in Billings, that's a 4-hour drive, stuff like that. So,
Yep.
Yeah. I need stuff like that.
Yeah. Like and you mentioned Pocket Cast, if Overcast didn't exist for the iOS, Pocket Cast is a great, third party, podcast app. I would think of that. Although I had Apple Podcast, but I might change that as a secondary. Like Overcast is great. I love it and would never want it to go away. But I had Apple Podcast as an alternate, but I might look at Pocket Cast actually instead. But interesting. How about you, Joanne, for podcasting?
Yeah, Overcast is definitely my first choice, but my original choice was never Apple. It was Downcast. And I liked Downcast, but then Overcast came out. The features were better. Yeah. I even bought into Overcast at one point, which is now you don't have to, but it's also a subscription somewhere in there for some other reason. But I like all the features in Overcast. It works very, very seamlessly. It's always there.
So Downcast is great. I use it for all my video podcasts. It's an excellent for video podcasts. So that's really good. So those are some basics. I think from here that we get some differences out there. Father Cory, what is just rattle off what else is on your list?
So big thing is banking and finance. So there, each of my banks have different apps. What my credit card or my debit card or whatever. Different apps. You need those. Those are essential for security reasons. Obviously, I won't mention which banks, but you need the apps from your banks. And then Google Wallet. I've got to, with the rise of touchless, touch NFC transactions, being the wallet, Apple Wallet, Google Wallet, same thing.
Yeah.
Being able to just take your phone and bring up your card and tap it and done.
That is a big thing. Yeah.
Is such a big convenience factor. And frankly, it's something I've used a lot more than I thought I would. After
2020, when that's really what gave the touchless payment systems in America the big boost to the all that lockdown stuff. So that's good. What else do you have on your list?
Another one, of course, is the 2-factor authentication. Everything now, they always, best security is the pass key, where it's actually the biometrics or something like that. But second best is having the 2-factor authentication. Of course, the phone is my authenticator tool. So I need to have that. I use Authy for that. It works great, but I need to have that. Home automation tools, Google Home, my garage door openers are Wi-Fi enabled. So those are definite, must-haves, be able to control the lights, control the garage doors, stuff like that. Google Docs, again, use that for, I put my homilies in Google Docs and then I'll use my iPad. But there have been times where my iPad is acting up. I forgot to charge it, something like that.
Yeah.
And I've actually had to use my phone to give my homily. It's not something I try to do, but I've done it. And then speaking of using your phone with religious things, iBreviary.
Yes.
Let's put it this way. There are very few priests who use the books anymore.
Right.
Most priests use iBreviary.
Yeah.
Because it's so convenient. It's just so convenient. You don't have to flip ribbons. You don't have to look it up.
You don't have to
right
switch
there.
books as the seasons change. It's all right there. Yeah.
Yep.
I agree. We use we pray my family does evening night prayers with all the kids, and we do the night prayer out of iBreviary every night, and it's so
great.
so convenient. I recommend it for families. It's a great, if rosary, a lot of families do, but we do night prayer, which has been fantastic for us. It's interesting. There's a few things in there that I might not say is a must have for me. Like, even like home automation tools, like I have other things I can control the home automation with. And so I think I was doing like, if I had to strip it all down, and I think that was a different criteria for me. Like if I had to, if every app on there I had to pay for, pay to have each additional app, you know what I mean? What ones would I do without? So that's very interesting.
Well, and the reason I mentioned the home automation tools is because there are times when I need to do it remotely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like my thermostat set that when I'm gone, it goes into eco mode, which means it'll only turn on the furnace if it gets below like 50 degrees.
Right.
Because if I'm gone for a few days, I don't want it. The house doesn't need to be that warm.
Right.
But as I'm driving home, it's a good time to be able to hit the turn on now button.
Yeah. When you're a half hour to an hour away, we do this every year. My brother has a pool party at his house on the 4th of July. And I have a reminder at like 4 o'clock on the 4th of July to turn on the AC back at the house because we're headed home. So make sure the AC is on and the house is cooled down. That is actually an excellent feature. So Joanne, what are the, go through the rest of the apps on your list and tell us what you've got that are must-haves.
Oh, definitely the banking apps. And see, I didn't even think about the wallet because the wallet for iPhone is right there. It comes with the phone. So I would never think of not using it or not getting rid of it. And yes, it was my savior at the beginning of the pandemic. So I didn't have to touch anything.
Yep.
Yet they still look at me, these young little youngins look at me when I bring up my watch and go to tap it. They go, wow. I'm like, you people are younger than me. Why aren't you doing this? I mean, like, seriously.
Right.
Because they're Venmoing everything.
I guess they are. Two-factor authentication apps. I have 5 of them because I started at a time when Google used their own to put it to Google. Adobe has their own for Adobe. I'm trying to consolidate now into 1 or 2 if I have to have 2. But I don't like having 5. Home automation, definitely. My only problem is I have some devices that will not pair in Apple, and I did not know that when I bought them. So I have to use their app. I'm talking to you, Wise. Get those bulbs and put them, make them into Apple Home because that's a problem. Prayers, I use, and I've used it for 15 years. I started on a PC with Universalis.
Oh yeah.
And I've kept that one. I bought it a long time ago, and it has a widget. So it's right in front. So on my front page. So the minute I know what day, Wednesday of week 31 in ordinary time is today as we're recording. So, but it always keeps me liturgically on par.
Now, originally when Universalis came out, they had their own translation of the liturgy hours. Do they have the official one available now?
They give you choices. So like originally they only had the Jerusalem Bible for readings. Now you can get the New American. So I don't use them for breviary. I use them for a lot of other things. So I use it for daily mass readings usually. Right. So, but if they do, I would think they have, because they're an English company and they started, they started diversifying after they started getting a worldwide audience.
Right. Well, that's just for as a priest, we're obligated to use the current translation. That's why I ask.
Right.
The official translation. Yeah. That's why I ask.
Right. Exactly. And I have Google Docs, not because I want them, but because I have to use them for work. But I have Office on my phone rather than Pages, and only because more people send me things in Word. So if I want to open it right away, that's the best thing to have on my phone.
Right.
Does that cover everything?
I think so. I mean, there might, I think some of mine may overlap with some of the ones. So you mentioned messages early on, Father, and if I had to, messages are a vital communication tool, and if I had to choose, it would be the built-in messages app that does SMS and does the iMessage. The alternate might be if I couldn't use messages for whatever reason, I might choose WhatsApp, even though it's a Meta product. There are a lot of people on WhatsApp. In fact, that's somehow my brothers and sisters and I communicate.
And I have a friend in Italy. The only way I can not have to pay and she doesn't have to pay is by using WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Right.
But we use it. We use the phone feature. We still talk on the phone.
And that's another great aspect of it is you can use WhatsApp for phone calls and that sort of stuff. Yeah, you're right.
Yes.
And I do believe WhatsApp on Android will do SMS as well. It can replace the Android messages service.
Oh, okay, cool.
I believe.
Yeah.
Of course, I turned that off because I like the Google messages actually pretty good.
Yeah.
So
my sister is the one sibling who's on an Android phone, and the rest of us are all iPhone. So we've had to, accommodate her by all going to WhatsApp. So because she'd share photos and videos, and they'd be postage stamp size because whatever is going on between.
Because Apple,
yeah. I have music on mine. I find music to be a very important function for when I'm driving or around. Around the house I wouldn't really need it. I've got HomePods and other ways to listen to music, but I did put music on mine, and I prefer Apple. If I had to choose another one, it would be Spotify. Those are really basically your two choices on an iPhone. For to-do list, OmniFocus all the way, because I've been an OmniFocus guy from the beginning of OmniFocus, really, like way back. I know that for a lot of people, it's a big steep learning curve to get in there, but everything in my life is in my work and my personal is in OmniFocus. So that's there. If I had to choose something else, the built-in reminders app on iPhone, on iOS, is pretty darn good. I could recommend it to folks. I need a web browser. In fact, I could replace a lot of apps with a web browser and just access services via the browser, and your only choice. I mean, you can get other browsers, quote unquote, on iOS, but they're all basically front ends for the same Safari engine. So I just use Safari on mine. Notes are important for me, like taking notes, keeping information at hand. Drafts is fantastic for me for that. I use that I could use Drafts for all the different ways I use notes. I have a bunch of different apps that I use for different things, but if I had to consolidate to one, it would be Drafts. Although Notes, again, the Apple built-in Notes has become very good. I use Apple Notes, by the way, for all of my show notes and scripts for all of our podcasts. I put all those in there. And then for two-factor authentication, I would say in my password manager, if I had to just pare it down, I would use 1Password. It can do two-factor authentication and do passkeys these days, and also keep all of my usernames and passwords. If I had to, I could go with just the built-in iOS feature of iCloud Keychain. I wouldn't love it. I'd resent it, but I could do it if I had to. So that's my list.
Now I understand that with the password manager. I went to Bitwarden after the lovely LastPass debacle. And it has worked very well. And I need it there also for passwords for work.
Yeah.
As far as notes are concerned, the only reason I'm on Apple Notes is because I needed to sync everywhere.
Yeah.
Before I was a big Evernote fan. And I was with Evernote for a long time, and then they jacked. I know. I'm not cheap, but I'm also not going to sell my soul to every single subscription that comes along.
Well, it's not only for me. Let's do a little bit of a tiny Evernote rant. It's not just that Evernote jacked the price; they also changed the product and removed features, and they've pivoted. They're planning to do something different, and they left me behind. and that's why I left Evernote.
Right. And as far as to-do apps, I use one called Clear. And I know it's just a tiny little thing. It's for to-dos. And I think the thing that's always made me like it is that as you swipe around, it makes a little chime. So I like to hear that little chime when I know something's done.
Whatever dopamine hit gets you to do the things you need to do.
That's right.
So I want to mention go ahead, Father Cory, before I go.
I was going to say, for me, for to-dos, I actually just use the Google to-do function.
Yep.
You can Google, it's built into Android.
Yeah.
So that's what I use, and it works pretty well.
And we've forgotten one thing that we all use that we need to have here at SQPN, and that's Slack.
Yeah. Although if I had to, I wouldn't put it on my phone if I could, if it came down to it, and I would just use Slack on my computer.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I had to.
See, that's that was actually a decision I made with, like, I don't have web browsers. I don't have that listed. I don't have Discord or Slack or anything like that, because I do all that on my desktop. So when I visit sqpn.com/Discord to sign up for our Discord server, got to get that promo in. When I visit our Discord server, I do it through my desktop. I don't do it through my phone. Although I use like the swipe keyboard, I still find it easier to use like an actual keyboard when I'm typing on something like Discord or Slack.
I'm old enough where that's true.
and
I'm there too.
Yeah. No, and there are apps that I can't use on my phone anymore. I have to use it on an iPad because I can't read it.
Yeah, right. Some of these apps have gotten
like Reddit, Discord, things like that.
And speaking of the Discord, before we get to our list of Discords, I do want to say one thing that is not on my list. Phone games.
Yeah.
No solitaire, no Sudoku, none of that.
Yeah.
That's my biggest time waste, is sitting there with the stupid solitaire game or something like that.
I have a large folder full of iPhone games that are on there. In fact, that 363 apps, probably a good portion of those are games. I don't play most of them, but yeah, it is a huge time waster. And if I should probably delete the whole folder anyway, but I personally left that off my phone too, off my list of stuff too.
I'm not you all know I'm not a gamer. I do have a couple of games on my phone if I am, in the doctor's office for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But that's the only time I use them, so they could come or go. But I do like Fruit Ninja.
Yeah, there you go. That's very satisfying.
That one is fun.
Very satisfying. Let's get to what some of our Discord users offered up. One person, they listed 3 things: Audible, Podkicker, which is a podcast app, and WhatsApp. That's a pretty pared down list. Another user, Discord, of course, Apple Music, and Waze. Someone else said a browser and a map. That's pretty pared down. The next one, messages, music / podcasts, email, a recorder, which I guess like audio recorder, a camera, and Google Docs. Interesting. Another one, Office 365 for work, AntennaPod for podcasts, a voice recorder for recording a quick note in the car while listening to podcasts, which is a very useful function.
Yes.
A camera, maps, and WhatsApp. And finally, the last one, Gmail, podcast, Twitter, and Libby, which is the library app for downloading books.
Oh, sure.
I didn't put the Kindle app on mine. I almost always, if I'm reading, I read almost all ebooks these days, and it's almost always on my Kindle, my physical Kindle. I like to keep that separate from my phone because notifications, distractions. Yeah. So I
that's the big thing of this whole project, is trying to minimize the distractions.
Yep.
Because you're doing something and all of a sudden pop.
Yes, exactly. That's a whole nother thing we could talk about, is what are the must-have notifications that we allow through. That would be an interesting. We can maybe do that in a future discussion. What are the notifications that we would that's an interesting. Folks, let us know. Actually, send us in. Tell us what your must-have apps or features are on your phone, but also what notifications are musts for you.
Yes.
And frankly, it's an interesting. I don't know. That's a good question.
I've been paring a lot of mine down to silent.
Yeah.
Yep, and I think that, and taking off the little badges.
Oh, badges are terrible.
I can't stand seeing badges
Yeah.
all the time.
We don't need no stinking badges.
No, we don't. But I think that would be a good subject for another podcast.
Yes. Notifications. I think we talked about it once before in the midst of a larger discussion, but I think we need to revisit that. That's for sure. Excellent.
Yep.
Very good. Good discussion. All right. Before we move on to our headlines, I want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the secrets of technology, including Karen V, Brett A, Elizabeth K, Nathan C, and Rob P. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the secrets of technology and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So let's talk about some headlines. Our first headline is from the Wall Street Journal, and the headline itself is "Tech Leaders Say AI Will Change What It Means to Have a Job." So there was a Wall Street Journal tech conference recently, and the president or CEO of OpenAI, which has given us ChatGPT, Sam Altman, among others, but he had a prediction that we're going within the next, I think he said the next 10 years, 80% of the jobs that people do today. No, this is actually a different guy at the conference, a venture capitalist. 80% of the jobs that we know of today will be done by AI. And among those, he pointed to many types of physicians and accountants as examples of professions that AI could largely supplant. What do y'all think of this? Let me pose a couple of questions. A, do you think he's right? B, what do you think this means for the dignity of human work from a Catholic perspective? And C, let's just go with those two, all right? Because I have other ones that kind of fit in that. So do you think he's right, 80% within 10 years? And what do you think it means for the dignity of human work? Father Cory, what do you think of that?
I wonder if that's maybe too optimistic on his part. I mean, AI is going to start affecting a lot of jobs. There's going to be a lot of things that it can automate them a lot easier, where, these are processes that are done manually, where it will help make those processes be more smooth, more fluid. But is it going to be like this big turnover thing? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Because right now AI, as it comes out of the gate, and it's so wonderful, it's so great. And you've talked about it, Dom, where it doesn't even get your bio correct.
Right. I mean, it'll get better, but yeah. So one of the things is we've had these predictions ever since the Industrial Revolution began. With the rise of assembly lines and factories, these people are going to be out of work, no one will work. And then with robots, industrial robots, robots are going to replace everybody. No one's going to work. Everyone's going to stay at home. What happens, I think, oftentimes is they do replace some people, but new jobs arise and people go do those things. And so I don't know that one of the things he predicts is like this, a future where everyone will get a basic minimum income and we'll spend our days doing creative things that we enjoy. I love the idea of that. I'll make podcasts all day if I'm I'm already doing that for a job, but I'll just hang out and whatever. I don't know. What do you think, Joanne?
That's my retirement. And I'm coming up. I mean, no, I think he's too optimistic. But I think if it were to happen in 10 years, in 20 years, that number will backtrack because people will realize taking the human factor out of it is problematic. I am the wife of an accountant, a lifelong accountant. Okay. My husband has shown me that because of the personal service that he gives his clients or that he has at work, he is much more effective in getting the results needed than if you would just plug it in, like he always says, plug it into TurboTax. It'll tell you what you owe, but it will not find you everything or tell you what you should do in the future to avoid some of these things. And that's what I know. So if you take people out of the equation, like this one, the quote was, "I believe the need to work in society will disappear in 25 years." Okay, so what's everybody going to do all day? Watch Jerry Springer reruns and eat bonbons? I mean, come on. People's brains will fry.
Worse.
People need
true.
People need work. They need the dignity of work. I think that's one of the things I was asking about is, or in the opening was there is a dignity to work. There's a dignity to labor. Doesn't mean it has to be hard labor. It doesn't mean, but there's a dignity to doing things that help others, that are creative, that are that sort of thing. And not everything has to be a paycheck. That's true, but I think the other thing is like replacing doctors and accountants with AIs. Yeah. People want to deal with people. I don't want to go to a doctor's office that's just an impersonal AI with a fake personality. And that's what they're trying to do is give them names, give them faces, but it's not real. It's not a person. And that there's a difference in that.
I'm knocking on the door of retirement and looking hard at what do I want to do, because retirement doesn't mean stop for me.
Right.
Retirement just means I have finished my labors in my profession, and now I get to choose more things to do that benefit others. What can I do? So I cannot see myself when I'm sick and sitting here, I hate it.
Right.
So I could not see myself doing that. And none of my friends at the same age or a little older are doing that either. They were all out volunteering. They were all out helping others. Some are taking part-time job. I have a friend who's 79 who has a part-time job in a golf course because it's what he likes, yet still feels worthy, making something, a little bit of money, so he feels his worth. You can't take that away from the human condition. You do that, you're going to have a society of potato heads. I know that's harsh, but
yeah.
Well, and of course, we're not even talking about there's a lot of manual labor jobs that AI can't do.
Right.
And AI is not going to come out and fix your toilet when it springs a leak.
Right.
Nope.
Or whatever.
You're not going to farm that field.
But, it's interesting, though, that they're talking about how AI is going to take over all these jobs. And yet there's a growing movement, and people kind of mock it a little bit, of the artisan craftsman or whatever. There is kind of a growing movement of more closer to earth, more handmade, more quality goods and services that people are looking for. If they have the money for it, they're looking for it. They're tired of the factory product that cranks out 5,000 jeans in an hour and the junk food and stuff like that. There is starting to be a movement towards more natural, handmade, the human touch. And so I honestly wonder if that movement keeps going, that'll push back against AI.
Yeah.
Because yes, AI can make a much more efficient pair of jeans.
Right.
But you can get better clothes from someone who makes it by hand, stuff like that. And it's going to be a balance. It's going to be an interesting balance.
The CEO of OpenAI, Sam Altman, I mentioned before, he actually pushed back a little bit on this prediction and said that, ensuring a basic income won't be enough. People need outlets for creative expression and a chance to, and as he puts it, add something back to the trajectory of the species. And that is true. Like, people do need to feel like, and not just to feel like, they need to be able to do something for the whole of society, for others, to be not just productive, but to contribute. People need to be able to contribute, and not just by, going and hanging out by the pool all day, but to do things like, and sure, someone may say, right, AI will take the drudge work, and you can go do volunteering and go work at the golf course and do the fun things you want to do. And I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with AI replacing the drudgery, as long as the human factor is most important, as long as the people who would be doing those jobs are given some dignified work to do that they can choose.
Well, and when you look at the Catechism of the Catholic Church, when it talks about work, and this is just going off the top of my head, it basically says that by our work, we are participating in the creative act that God created by creating the universe.
Yes.
God began this creative work, and with our human labors, we are participating in that, and work has dignity. it has value. And it's not just about getting a paycheck so you can keep a roof over your head and food on your table and clothes on your back. It is about doing things to better humanity. It is better, participating again in that creative work. And yeah, even if your job is to sit at a desk and answer, customer service phone calls, which can be very drudgery. I mean,
I've done it.
You can get,
I've done it.
It is a very difficult job because all you're doing is sitting there and in many cases getting abused half the day, depending on the job you're working for. But or if you're the guy who's out there building the cars or doing the plumbing, stuff like that. All of it is for the betterment of humanity.
Yeah.
And to participate again in that creative work that God started.
Yeah. And I know we've talked about this before. AI cannot take your job, Father Cory.
Right. Fundamentally.
It can't.
People want to.
Fundamentally.
People want to try it. Confession by AI.
No,
thank you.
No.
Can't do it.
So our next headline, a little bit related. This is from Bloomberg. American work from home rates dropped to the lowest since the pandemic. So as everyone knows, during the pandemic, everyone worked from home if they could work. And then when people could go back, a lot of businesses allowed especially their white collar workers to work from home all the time, some of the time. And what they're finding is that, as the top line says, fewer than 26% of U.S. households still have someone working remotely at least one day a week. Now, the peak was 37%. So there are a lot of people who work that's at a job that you can't work from home. I mean, it's like that we forget sometimes when I say we, like media and others, forget how many people do jobs that require you to put your hands on something somewhere else. But of the types of jobs where you could work from home, where you could work as long as you have a computer and a phone line, you can get your work done. Mm-hmm. Those numbers have been dropping. Now, it's interesting. The places where it's not dropping are in the big tech cities, Seattle, Boston, San Francisco, that sort of thing. But it's we've seen those numbers drop, and they point out a lot of New York City workers abandoned the city during the pandemic, moved to Connecticut and New Jersey. They're not moving back. They're now commuting back. What do y'all think of this? Is this a positive or a negative?
Look, I've always worked from home at some point in my career. Okay, it's just the way either I didn't have an office in the beginning, or now with the pandemic and distance. For me, it's cheaper to work 2 days at home than to go into my office at the parishes and sit there and nobody comes to see me and sit in my office for 6 hours and then drive. It's 45 minutes each way. So it's like, it's easier for me to sit at home and do these things, which is why I have the phone on my iPhone. Mm-hmm. So as long as you are disciplined and as long as you are working, then I see the upside to it. The downside to it is the parishioners who always want you there. They come to drop in and you are not there. Well, Joanne's never in her office. Did Joanne actually work? Joanne actually works, but she's there when she's there on the weekends. She's there at nights for meetings. She's there. If you do want to see her during the day, just takes a phone call and we'll make an arrangement. But I think from a psychological point of view too, this has helped me stay doing this type of work longer. Because if I was doing that traveling every single day, I'd be wanting to retire a lot earlier.
Yeah.
So,
well, of course, Joanne, now you know how priests feel. Is priest ever around?
Does he work? Yeah. You're at the golf course all day.
Yeah, right. No, I wish. Well, of course, I work from home because my office is in my rectory.
Right.
My personal office is in my rectory, but then, of course, I've got the church itself. But I can see both sides. Working from home is great, part-time when, you do have jobs where, frankly, like if you're working on IT or something like that, where everything you do can be done from home, you don't have to be in the office most of the time. Okay. But there is also the personal connections that, I think this is one lesson we did learn from the pandemic is locking everybody down and keeping everybody from going out and seeing other people was a bad thing. Mm. That was an awful thing. And even jobs there's times when, you know what, sometimes it's better just have an in-person meeting and hash it out. You don't have the technological issues. You don't have the, I can't talk. I'm having issues. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. People are distracted. No, you're in a room, you're sitting down, you're talking about it, and there's that physical connection. And same thing with a lot of jobs. There's a lot of jobs where having that physical connection might not be a necessity for a job, but it definitely helps the job.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And that is the biggest downside. It's the one thing I've had now that the pandemic is, on an even keel. I make myself go out, even if I'm working from home, because I have to get out during the day. If I don't, you start to feel the claustrophobia and or whatever other phobia there is, a fear of going outside.
The isolation. Agoraphobia.
Agoraphobia. The agoraphobia. It's a real thing, and you have to do it. It's so, but again, you have to weigh it. And I think if people can work at home, if it does work for them, if they do work, then there's a big upside to that. If you can't, then go in the office.
My last office job was similar to what you said, Joanne. I worked an hour away from where I live and driving through the city of Boston. So some days it was an hour and a half to 2 hours to get home. And I would go there, sit in an office, and see no one all day and then come back. It was an entirely pointless exercise. Everything I could do at home. And that drove me a little batty. And it's interesting, with SQPN, everyone that I work with is remote. I've never been in the same room with Jimmy Akin. Like, maybe, I don't think we've even been in the same state at any point, as far as I know. But yeah, we've worked together for all these years. So it can happen, it can work, but I also have my family and I have outside interests and I go do things. So it is important for that. But I think, there's a lot of wasted time in offices. When I worked for the Archdiocese and worked in other office environments, there was a lot of people who stopped by or meetings that could have been an email and all that sort of stuff. And frankly, I think I like the idea of more remote, fewer people on the road commuting, all that sort of stuff. But if companies want people to want to be back in the office, they need to do something about the distractions and the nonsense that make being in an office a pain in the neck. That'll go a long way to that.
Here's what I tell everybody. You can waste time in an office or at home or anywhere.
Yeah.
If you're going to waste your time, you're wasting the time.
Exactly.
And one thing I will say with offices, this idea now of the open seating where, now that you can do profiles and everything, you literally, you pick whatever chair's open and sit down. You don't have a desk.
Oh, right.
That's yours.
Oh, that. Yeah.
That's one big one.
Yeah.
Well, open seating too, as far as you don't even have cubicles anymore.
Yeah, no, that one is super distracting to me. I couldn't work in an environment like that. All right, so our third headline is from Ars Technica, and it says that Android will now scan side-loaded apps for malware at install time. So Google has a new feature in Android that will, as they put it, the world outside Google's walled garden. I never thought I'd hear those three words together. Has no rules at all and offers a countless number of questionable apps available for sideloading. To help combat the surge of sideloaded malware, Google Play can now pop up a malware scanner at install time if it decides the app you're trying to sideload is interesting. What do you think of this, Father Cory, as the Android user on this panel?
That's great, because that's been sideloading has been a big feature of Android. Google has made it clear that they won't have a real walled garden. I think that was Ars Technica was being snarky with that one. Looking at the bio of the guy, he specializes in Android OS and Google products. So I have a feeling that was like a Apple poke. But being able to sideload is actually a really big feature for Android, because you can have apps that, for whatever reason, either for legitimate reasons or not so legitimate reasons, don't go through Android's Play Store, and maybe you don't want to go through Android's Play Store.
Right.
So, I think that's a good thing, especially to be able to scan them, because, we know that that's an issue for, even with Apple, you can find viruses that get through the Apple scanners.
Well, or even just malicious apps that don't necessarily have viruses or malware, but they're just they're money scams that Apple
Yep.
lets through. Yeah. And when people report it, they still don't take them out. It drives me crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's a good thing that they have that available.
Yeah.
And you can turn it off, which, again, that's, if you want to take the risk and disclosure, I haven't sideloaded an app on my phone in years. So, I mean,
right.
I don't use it, but it is a good feature to have available because there have been times when apps have been removed by both Apple and Google, and they are legitimate apps. They just don't happen to have the right political background,
right?
Shall we say?
Or even just that's one. Or like they're in a dispute with them, like Epic Games and Fortnite, famously with Apple and that sort of thing. So, yeah, they said the potentially harmful app install rate inside the store versus outside the Google Play Store is much higher. You're 20 times more likely to get malware if you sideload an app outside the Play Store. So it's a good feature to have something that scans it. Just so you're doing. I mean, it doesn't say you can't install it. It's just so you're fully aware. So I think having awareness is better than not having awareness. So that's good.
Yep.
Excellent. All right. So those are our headlines. Why don't we move on to our picks of the week? And Father Cory, why don't you go first with your pick of the week?
So with my pick, I have to do a standard disclaimer. I am not an eye doctor. I never have been. I've never played one on TV. So my advice is merely from someone who has used a service and really liked it. Your mileage may vary. So I do wear contacts, although, if you watch Secrets of Doctor Who and Secrets of Star Trek on YouTube, I usually am wearing my glasses because I haven't put my contacts in yet that morning. But I do wear contacts, and I use 1-800-CONTACTS to order them because it's online, subscription, all that good stuff. Well, one thing they have available is an online renewal exam. Now, it's a renewal exam. You have to do an initial exam with a doctor, with an eye doctor, and upload that, and then they can give you your contacts. But every 2 years, you need to renew your prescription. Well, they have an online exam where you can go in and using an app on your phone. I know this is kind of funny talking about another app you have to put on your phone. Right. But you set your phone 10 feet away, and it's really cool where it uses your camera to estimate what 10 feet is. And by the way, my back wall is exactly 10 feet from my monitor. So that works.
Okay.
And you do read these letters and you read it out loud, and it uses voice to text to, voice capture to do it. And then, cover your left eye, cover your right eye, and all that kind of stuff. And it basically all it does is you're wearing your contacts and says, yep, your contact prescription is still good. It does. They say go to an actual ophthalmologist to look at the results of the exam. And then they just say, yep, you can get a new set of contacts. It takes like 10 minutes. It's really easy. It was like $20.
Wow.
Much cheaper than actually going and doing a full exam. Now, again, you aren't going to get the physical stuff that they do. Like when they dilate your eyes so they can look in the back of your rods and cones and all that, look at the back of your eyeball. They don't get it does a little bit of a surface scan where it makes you look left, look right, look up, look down.
Right.
And it takes pictures as it does that. So that helps. It does some of that, but it doesn't give you the full range that you're going to get if you actually go to an eye doctor. So that there is that. If you've got concerns about that you need to go to an actual eye doctor for. But just for a quick renewal of your prescriptions, it's great.
I don't imagine my eye doctor would be in favor of this thing because
mine wouldn't either.
It's taking work away from him. But it's another one of those things where you're like, oh, AI taking away jobs. I mean, this isn't AI per se. But you can see where instead of the doctor reviewing it, they have an AI do a first screening, then they send it to a doctor to review it or something. Yep. But I think it's fascinating use of technology, and it is kind of cool that they can do this. This is like when I did the audiograms, where I set up an audio model of my hearing to optimize the sound coming out of my iPhone through my my AirPods. This is another way of using the tool for that. Kind of fascinating. I wonder if the Apple Vision Pro will have something like that at some point. Because it's right there on your head. Would be interesting. Excellent. Good pick. Joanne, what's your pick this week?
Well, I'm going to get us all started on the Christmas shopping.
Uh-oh.
Because if you are in the market for headphones, especially Apple headphones, you need to run, not walk, to Amazon and get the AirPod Pro second generations. Now, this was on my Christmas list, and my husband decided to get it early because they were on sale. But then he decided to give them to me.
Oh, your husband's like me. I can never hold on to a gift to give on the day.
He can hold on to it. I can do that all day long. In fact, I have a closet with his Christmas presents in it right now. But these are normally $249. They're down to $199, and I don't know how long this is going to start. In fact, all of the Apple headphones on Amazon are discounted, even the Max.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, but I am 2 days with these things, and I'm totally enamored with them because between the adaptive, I got to get the terms right, Joanne. So we know what we're saying.
Adaptive
here.
audio.
The adaptive audio is incredible.
Yeah.
And the noise cancellation. I've never had noise cancellation headphones before. And I had my washer on, and I couldn't hear the washer.
Yeah.
At all.
The AirPods noise cancellation is fantastic. In fact, that's what convinced my wife Melanie that I needed to get her some, because I let her use my AirPods once, while she was cooking or whatever, because there was like all this noise and the kids in the background and the washer going, and she put them in, and it's like, oh, silence. Like, this is, I mean, it's not complete silence, but it knocks away so much noise. I wear them when I take my kids to Scouts. I wear them, because the parents often wait on the side. I wear them because of the noise of the kids, being Scouts.
Right.
And it's just so much better. It covers it. So, yeah,
I am totally enamored with it. The transparency mode is very good, because when my husband starts talking, I need to pay attention, because he's always like, take those out of your ears.
Right.
But now I can actually have a conversation with him without having to take them out.
Right.
They have something called personalized volume, and I started to know, and my Power Beats Pro had these. And I got used to that, where when it puts it in, it not only remembers, but then it will adjust depending on, sometimes what the room is also. We got me these because, and this is horrible, we have my husband who likes to watch TV very loud, but it's not a program I want to watch.
Yeah. So
I'll go on my iPad, which is not a problem, but I can't block out what he's listening to.
Right. So that's
why we got them.
Nice.
And I'll tell you, they're worth the price, because now I've had the regular ones. Now I've had these, and I've had the Power Beats, and I'll tell you, these are the ones.
The pros.
They're worth the price. They do as much as you need them to do. And the only problem you're going to come with is you might lose them, because they're smaller. Yeah,
you get to get
track of them. They don't wrap around your ear, but they do come with the 4 earbuds, and those are wonderful. They stick like glue in there.
The tips are 4 different sizes.
The tips are, and that's, just for that, people should go to the Pro, because trying to get those other ones in your ears, they tend to fall off.
And they're so uncomfortable. So let me mention which ones are. So they have this the AirPods Pro 2nd Gen. These are the ones we're talking about. Normally $249, $50 off, $199. The regular AirPods 3rd Gen, those are normally $169. They're on sale for $149, so $20 off. They still sell the AirPods 2nd generation. Those are normally $129. Those are $30 off at $99. That's okay. If you kids, you want to get kids some, because kids tend to lose things. But if they really want AirPods, that would be the one. AirPods Max, which is the over-the-ear ones, which are super expensive and frankly I think overpriced, but they're normally $550, $549. They're on sale for $479, so that's $80 off. So that's right. I might get them $70 off. So that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, this is the time. I mean, I know we haven't gotten into our picks for Christmas yet, but folks, if you're looking for it, this is the time to get them. Yeah,
because they're on sale now. Yeah, we're going to do our annual tradition of Christmas episodes where we give you gift ideas, techie gift ideas. So, but consider this a preview of that.
Yes.
All right. So let me give you my pick of the week. Mine is I bought a Steam Deck earlier this year and loving it. But games are expensive. And so and I wanted to play all the Star Wars games, and my kids all wanted to play the Star Wars games. So what do? Well, I could go out and buy them all. like I said, expensive, or EA, which has the Star Wars games as well as others, has a subscription called EA Play, and for about $5 a month or $30 a year, you can get unlimited access to a collection of our best loved games, as they say. So their most popular games, you may not get the most recent games, like we have Jedi Fallen Order that we can play, but not yet Jedi Survivor, which is the new one that just came out. But my kids are playing Battlefront, they're playing Jedi Fallen Order. You get Madden, NFL, you got FIFA, the soccer one, you get a whole bunch of stuff, all for $5 a month, which is a pretty darn good deal. And or $30 a year, which is an even better deal, frankly. I should make sure I switch. I got to go back and look and make sure that's the deal I've got, because $30 a year is much cheaper than $5 a month. Father Cory, did you also put a link in to the?
I just put the link directly to the actual Steam store.
Okay.
Instead of the EA Play, because that's the easiest way to do it. Because of course EA wants you to use their app. They want you to use the EA stuff, and not the Steam stuff. And I'm kind of curious about this, because you said it, like the Star Wars games work on the Steam Deck. Well, that's a big deal, because traditionally, even though the games will actually run under Proton, which is the emulation system, or not emulator. Wine is not an emulator, but whatever. The API layer, that's the term they use, between the game and Linux, which the Steam Deck runs on. EA has always had trouble, has made that difficult to do. And so, because they would have their own Origin app and everything you had to use. Right. But now if it's got it where you can run these games on directly from Steam on that's amazing. That's fantastic.
So a couple things with that is Jack Barazini, who's one of our panelists, gave me access to a little app and utility you can install on your Steam Deck that makes everything run a little better. It sort of it tunes it a little bit. So that worked, and it was a little bit at first. There was a little bit of issue getting the EA stuff working. I had to look up but I think it's better now. I think they've improved the functionality with Steam. And EA Play isn't just for Steam. I should point out, you can get it on your, Xbox, PlayStation, PC. It will work on all of those different things.
Yep.
But I don't have any of those. I have a Steam Deck, and it works great. And like I said, some of the games are a little older, Madden 22 instead of Madden 24. However, you do get access to new releases for up to 10 hours. So you can play Madden 24 on the EA Play, and then you could buy it if you want. I mean, there's not preventing you from going and just buying the newer games, which is, I think, what they'd love for you to do. I recommend it if you've got a Steam Deck, or even just one of the other consoles. It's a nice opportunity to get access to those games for cheap money. Excellent. So those are our picks of the week. And that's it from us. We would love to get your feedback on anything we discussed today. And you could do so by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/technology, or the StarQuest Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. You can send an email to technology@sqpn.com, or visit the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/Discord. You can find links from our discussion and our picks of the week on our show notes on starquest.fm/TEC234. That's Tech 234. Follow The Secrets of Tech in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, your favorite podcast app, on YouTube, where you should hit the bell to get notifications, and for a little while on Google Podcasts, but who knows how long that'll last. And until next time, Father Cory Sticha, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
Thank you, Dom.
Joanne Mercier, thank you as well.
Thanks, Dom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.